Hey there folks, Glenn with Campview, and today I'm going to be reviewing Fruita Campground at Capitol Reef National Park. Welcome to Capitol Reef. It's my very first time visiting the park, and certainly my very first time camping here. And I've arrived at Fruita Campground, and all I've done really since I've been here is set up my tent. So you're getting me while I'm fresh and untarnished. My first impression driving in here was, and kind of is that it's not the most private campground, and I started to not get grumpy, but I'm like, oh well, another one of these. But then I started looking at it more carefully, and there's a lot of positives to talk about here, and I'll explain where the privacy concerns come from, but I thought about it, and when we get into it, I don't know what they could have done different. So that's kind of going to be a theme as I walk through. I'm setting myself up to be positive here. But overall, though, I think there's much to be positive for real. So let's just dive right on in. So my site, I gotta walk all the way over here for whatever reason, is site 40. So my first impression when I pulled in is, okay, here's my site. I see a table right there that's not my site. And then I'm like, oh no, here we go. But then, you know, when I really start looking at the distance between things here compared to other national park campgrounds, I'd say it's pretty much par for the course. And I don't really see two tables yet that are way too uncomfortably close. They do spread out, those living areas at least. But you're probably seeing maybe a reason for why I'm calling out privacy issues. It's just simply there's really no vegetation or anything to block sightlines in the neighboring sites, and therein lies the real comment, which is in this type of terrain, which is really a dry desert landscape, outside of these trees, what else could they really do? And then you start remembering to the last few days of camping and how hot it can get, and you look around up above you, and then you realize you have some of the most exquisite shade you might ever get at a desert campground. You don't even feel like you're camping in the desert, but believe me, you are. That's evidenced by these giant towering cliffs on either side of us that expose the real environment. The only real thing I think that can sour the experience is going to be getting some rude, loud people that are going to keep you up all night type of a scenario, and that's always just the gamble. But I'm ready to go to war with whoever wants to, believe me. So if you're that person, you might be messing with the wrong one today. I can't take it anymore. All right, so let's unpack what you get as in terms of amenities at these campsites. So number one, at least where I'm at, well, I would say for all of them, you're gonna get a picnic table, like an aluminum picnic table. And because it's in the shade, except for that one over there that has like some pretty skimpy shade, it shouldn't be too hot. You should be able to sit on it in the daytime. You also have your pretty standard fire ring and an attached grill. And then each spot that I saw, there's really no tent pad per se. It's kind of like, I guess, put your tent wherever it makes sense. And you can see, I just put mine under the shade of this big tree. But that's kind of par for the course. And you can see my neighboring site. I would say they have even less choice, because I see, you tell me, where does my site start and where does theirs begin? Because my driveway butts all the way up there, so you would think this is my property back here. If somebody sets a tent up like right over here, that's the kind of thing that I worry about. And therein lies one of my curiosities with this campsite, are the driveways. They're huge. Like, I would say in terms of not so much, I mean, lengthwise they're huge, but widthwise they're huge. And to me, that worries me, and I'm going to tell you why. I find this to be excessive. This to me is like what you'd have at a walk-in campsite where you're sharing like several parking spots with other people. So unless you're supposed to recreate on the pavement, what's the purpose of having such a gigantic spot? And could you not have favored making the campsites a little bit nicer and putting tent pads in or something instead of spending money on all that pavement? Granted, this is very level ground down here, but it's not perfect by any means. I'll show you my site. I wouldn't say my site's exactly level, and I couldn't find like any nice flat, completely flat ground. It's kind of bumpy and uneven in general, but I'm on a very slight slant over here, which is probably almost impossible to see, but not to the point where I think it's going to be disruptive. So what I'd rather have than a gigantic driveway is a tent pad or something that really a more well-defined spot. And here's why I'm going to tell you why I'm worried. And if you've camped here and you've seen it, comment down below, because I want to know if my theory's right. So as long as we all subscribe to the fact that these really are not intended to be group sites, and they probably are intended to really have a reasonable number of tents, probably even says specifically on the website, having a scenario like this is inviting trouble, because you know you're going to get the people that are going to bring the 4-8 person tents and essentially treat this like a group site and then be really loud and disruptive. Because once the number of people gets past a certain point, I don't care how well intentioned you are going to disrupt others, whether you realize it or not. Unless you're a bunch of monks that have sworn an oath to silence. Totally different thing though. So most of my gripes are based on theoretical possibilities that I haven't proved for myself, but based on things I've been witnessing time and time again in all of our other national parks. I just don't see how that's not possible. Come on. And me being here for 4 nights increases that statistical probability that I am going to have eventually a bad experience. And that's exactly what I'm finding. The more I camp, and I'm camping like 4 days a pop at different parks, sometimes for a few weeks at a time, you better believe I'm running into a mix, because it actually does happen. And therein lies my only, I guess I'm seeing potential for problems in this setup, but let's not dwell on potentials. Let's just walk around and take a look at the reality. So I'm on loop B here, so I know at least there's a loop A and loop B. There's probably a loop C, and we're going to take a look and sample all of them. And maybe we'll take a quick look at my neighbor's sites since they're not here at 42, or maybe even better, these walk-in campsites, because this is pretty self-explanatory and pretty much doing what you can do on my Camp View drive-through videos. I was trying to figure out, I saw some campsites that are tucked away way back there, and at first I thought that was this site's, but it's not. That's one of the walk-in sites. I want to say 43. So you have several walk-in sites and you're going to share parking, and it looks like they might have it so you can't really cheat too much and bring too many vehicles in here like I saw people do at Yosemite. But it's kind of interesting because you can see at least they try to make it comfortable, and they have a tree for every site, so at least whoever designed this is thinking about stuff like that, because other places they wouldn't care, quite honestly. They're just going to throw it in a field and you'll bake in the sun. So overall, I think those sites, I could do it. I don't really see how they're much different than my scenario, other than there's less tree cover, but each has a big tree, except for 43, which you can see right now, depending on the time of day, you may have that. So 43 might be the one to avoid, and I wonder if it's why it's not reserved and it says C campground host. Maybe they save that for last for people that, maybe that's where they bring the naughty people to punish them. That's what I'd like to think. I'll do a quick pan though here of the campground, and you can really get the gist of it from right here. Relatively flat, although Loop B does slant kind of downhill this ways like that, but not bad. If you're in a tent, I don't think you're gonna be miserable or unhappy or notice too much any slants. And if you're in a rig, I don't know if people are even putting the blocks to level things off. I haven't seen that yet. I think my neighbors just arrived and it looks like a couple, 2 adults, no kids. So it's probably a good sign that it should be quiet, but you never know. I'm gonna guess all the loops are similar in this way, that they're like on these flatter areas in between these cliffs and kind of grass covered. And here's a good example of the subtleties of the levelness here. That tent helps you see it. It's kind of level, but not perfect. That's how I would describe them. That's site 20. And we'll stand here in the middle, and you can see, I mean, Not every single one. There's a couple I saw over here, but almost every single one's in this really nice dense shade. I'd say that's one of the best features of this campground is that. It's hard to see it from within the tree cover, but this is really indicative of the surrounding landscapes. Very dry, rocky, and then you turn around and you can kind of see on the other side more big rocks, but almost like just a little oasis. And there are all these historic orchards and things in here that we're going to check out. So you can see there's a trash collection here, so you don't have to pack it out. I don't think you're surprised, are you? And another grouping of sites that you can go see on Camp View, where you'll actually see the site numbers. If I'm not calling out the site numbers, it's because I do that on the drive-through. I'm just trying to give you the overview and the general flavor, and more of my likes and dislikes. One thing I like off the bat is I saw horses in a pasture over here, and it's very idyllic and probably part of the historic properties that they have over here. So we'll go take a look. Got a horse over here hanging out. What's your name? Hey! Are you happy? I look like a happy dance. Are you friendly? Huh? Come here. I don't know much about horses and how do you encounter them? Like dogs, for example. I know you can let them smell your hand a little bit and, you know, get acclimated, but horses, I don't know. Can I pet the horse? Hey. It's a friendly one. Look at that. Like when they do that, what does that mean? When they do the little thing with their hoofs. Are you a good horsey? Yeah. Oh, it probably feels good because you have flies all over you. I feel bad. Poor guy. You can't get those flies off of your face. And that bothers you. Here, let me help you with that. Oh, he is covered in flies. Must be kind of a tough thing being a horse, huh, babe? Hey, I'm not gonna let you bite me because I know you bite. You horses bite. I've learned my lesson. Not by a horse, but one of your cousins. I will wipe your head. I'll try to get the flies off though. You can kind of tell it's clearly annoyed by the flies, and it's covered them in them. So, like, can you provide horses relief from that? Do they have any kind of like spray or something to keep the flies off? It's like going in its eyes and stuff. Let's continue walking this way and I'll show you this. I mean, isn't this the most beautiful setting though for a campground? And it's special. So this is giving us some information saying that, you know, we've got some historic orchards here where you had Mormon pioneers planting thousands of trees from the 1880s to the 1960s. So I don't know much about orchard trees and how long they live, and are some of them the remainders of those planted by Mormon hands back in the day, or did those die and now, you know, in more recent times they were planted? But you could see these were probably some of the trees right there. And I couldn't tell you what type of fruit it would be. But imagine if you were one of those that lived out here and could farm and stuff. I don't see how you could be unhappy. I just don't. I'm not saying farming's easy work by any means, but... So anyway, this is the bordering the campground. Hey kids, if it wasn't written on the top of it, would you know what this is? Let me see if it actually works. I didn't think they still had these anymore. There's a tone. I didn't look to see if I have a cell phone signal, but I guess that's handy, and considering that I was forced to get $20 worth of quarters to do laundry earlier on the trip. That was my fault, by the way. The machine took 5s, 10s, and 20s, and all I had were 20s. I could make a lot of dang calls, but in 2024, I don't know, how much would it cost to make a long distance call? All right, I'm gonna make note of this here right now, just in case you guys see it with your own eyes. 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. This is saying how this is mountain lion territory, which I would say most of the places I go to are mountain lion territory. So nothing new for us. Or maybe they have more here than usual. Oh, okay, so I thought this was all loop B. I was incorrect. It's a combination of two loops. I am in loop B, but loop A and B. So we're covering a two for one. And I think there's another section back there, presumably C, that we'll look at. And I don't know how much more than that. I guess now we're on loop A, where the low numbers start. Site 3, and so I'm on 40 and it goes up to probably closer to 50. Here are some of the ones that I wanted to call out for you that are a lot more lacking in shade, at least here midday. I'm sure these trees during the time of the day are oriented to give a little bit more shade, but if there were any to avoid, I might recommend these, like 7 and 8. Well, 8, they are close together. 6 is closed, or it says reserved actually, but they are kind of close together and without shade. But these at least border that pasture land, which is kind of a bonus. And certainly this tree, when the sun's moving, it will have shade at different times of the day. But this, like number 9, forget about it. I would say that's a way too crowded, way too close to its neighbor, and the one over there, and there's no shade at all. Avoid number 9. It might be the least shady of them all. I don't even see a single tree that number 9 gets. It's just pure open. I hear a river over here actually, and they were talking about the Fremont River on a sign over there, so I didn't know that. If we could find river access, we'll see what kind of water it is and if it's the kind that I can go lay in and cool off. Well, looky here, we have a little baby deer and a mama, and another one over there, and they don't seem to be afraid of people. So as is with these national park sites, we have deer. Not a little baby, it's kind of getting bigger, but it's cute. And I bet you it's gonna be more afraid than the big one. Or are you getting excited to see me? Your tail's wagging, huh? I'm not coming to bother you, I'm coming over here. Keep doing your thing. See, look at that. That's what I like to see though. They should be afraid of people. But I told you, the mama's probably not too afraid and used to people. And don't worry, little one, I'm not coming after you. Go back to your mama. I want to go this way. You can see that guy had to level out his a little bit at 30. So there is a river trail. I'm going to probably go enjoy that at some point. And we're at elevation 5,350 feet. So it's over a mile high, I believe. I'm going to give this little one its time in the limelight too. I think it's starting to warm up to me. So I popped into the restroom nearest me, and I'm gonna try to be quick, but you could see the cleanliness is there, except for guys sometimes not flushing the toilets. I'm gonna skip over the one that I didn't. And you got sinks, you have running water, place to put needles and syringes. Thing I like to point out to people that need electricity to charge something, or maybe electric shaver. Yeah, I would say a very clean bathroom, except for one patron not knowing how to flush his pee-pee. So this should be the little designated spot to wash dishes in, gray water disposal. It's always nice to have that, because I do have things I might want to cook today, and having a sink nearby is a good thing. I'm spying on the people that are next to me to make sure they're keeping their tent far away, and they are. Because they're keeping it on the other side of where my driveway is, which is what I was hoping. Although a little bit of intrusion's okay if you're cool. So what I need to do next is head over to the visitor center. I don't know if I'm supposed to check in or what, but I need to go do that and also get information so I can learn, like the horse, I got flies on me, so I can learn about the park, because I don't really know how I'm going to spend my time here, what there is even to do. I did no research, I didn't have any time. I can relate to the horse. I'm just admiring the landscape now. So it looks like you probably do need to check in here. So keep that in mind. So I'm glad I did. Go show my National Parks Pass, tell them I'm camping here, and there's my little maps that I'm gonna grab on the way out to learn. And Capitol Reef established in 1971. Which is why there were Mormons out here all the way through the 60s growing orchards. They're about to close, but I wanted to film this so I could read stuff later myself and to show you guys I do have some info in here. I've been talking for a long time. I've gotten a lot of good info. But yeah, you got a little informational thing that talks about the geology here. And there's a really good map of the overall area, so I might have to come back and spend more time in here when they're not closing. All right, let's head back to the campsite. So the only issue I have now is this is all like literature about some of the trails and stuff you can drive in here, so there's lots of off-pavement driving in this area that I didn't even know about. So now I gotta choose what we're gonna do. The ranger walked me through the maps of some of these, but they have these road guides that I think they were $3, so I got 2 of them. And they have information about geology and different stops where you can reset your, kind of like we've done before, like the loop drive we did at Oregon Pipe, that nature drive, or the geology tour. It's kind of like that, except maybe a little bit better, and you have to pay $3 for the thing. So this I have found, and I'm sure there's a lot of coincidence to it, an idyllic camping experience, like with the campers and everything. Like over here you got like the father and son throwing the baseball around and just chatting. And you got the same thing here, like they're throwing a football. It's like what I remember being a kid. It's, you know, it's quiet. Probably because a lot of people haven't arrived yet, but it's like after 5 now, so maybe that's indicative that the place will go underutilized, which is unfortunate if that's true, but I guess for me that's not bad. I'm gonna go take you on the camp view this episode. I'm gonna take you guys down to this historic stuff, this barn, and there's some interpretive signs around here, and there's orchards. A lot more orchards than I thought. They're like spread all around the campground. Like I went over and peeked at Loop C and did a quick, drive through of my own to scout it out. And I would even say this side has more shade. There are some really exposed areas over there, but we'll check it out later. But what I'll do is we'll go check this stuff out, and I'll read any signs that we come across, and I'll just show you like the general setting, because you really got to take in the setting to get this place. I think because of the way people take photos and the type of lenses you use and how you use them, you often don't get the scale. And I'm gonna guess right now you're not, but let me try a trick here with this camera. This is not my usual go-to for this, but that's probably more to scale of like how it feels to me with those things towering over me. I should have brought my other camera because I can get that effect a lot better. But basically, I want to make a point that you're in like this, I mean, I don't know if canyon is the official word, if that's where we are. It might be, because there's the Fremont River cutting right through it. But absolutely a masterpiece. This is where we were hanging out with that horse earlier, and you can see more of the orchard trees here in view. Right next to the campground. I don't know. A lot of the good experiences because of how people are behaving. But more importantly than that, there must be part of my little system of what's going to get the #1 campground of the year. There are other factors that must be considered also. I earlier said, even today, this morning, that Kodachrome Basin State Park is #1 in the lead as a contender for the best campgrounds of 2024 that will be coming out at the end of the year. But this place opens my eyes to other factors I did not yet consider. And that is the setting. Because maybe it's worth putting up with a loud neighbor for a night or something to basically have your campground in the middle of a jewel box. And to think that people farmed and lived here, it's it's just the most ideal thing in my mind. If I could buy a place like this, Amy, and just have some simple acreage. If we had to establish our own orchard, I don't think it would be profitable for a long time. I don't know. Is it years? Is it a lifetime? I don't know. Probably not a lifetime, but just imagine having something like this. Someone needs to make a game that's like Stardew Valley, but there's several different levels you can choose, or maps, but they're as photorealistic as possible, like this. It's in VR, and you actually have to bend down and plant. I shouldn't be giving away all my ideas. This is Gifford Place. I need to learn about these various orchards. This episode on Camp View might be a little bit more explorer-y, I guess, than the usual, where we're just kind of blowing through campgrounds. One, because this isn't that huge of a campground, and the layout is very simple and easy to cover. So I'm kind of wanting to focus this episode on just, the vibe I'm getting from this, and for the report I need to give you is I really need to get through to you the setting. And I might even ask you to overlook any worries about the things that I usually worry about when it comes to choosing a site in a place like this. I'm pretty sure you can swing around the front of this thing and there's an opening, and I saw a sign, an interpretive sign, and there's deer. Another deer. 2 deer. That one has antlers, doesn't it? Can't see very well from here. A young one, I bet. I'm waiting for the theme song from Little House on the Prairie, the introduction, to start playing over loudspeakers or something in here when I see stuff like that. So yeah, let's check this out. This is the Pendleton Jorgensen Gifford barn story. I'm just reading this. For whoever, I think one of our viewers asked for me to focus on things a little bit longer so you can read them. So that's what I'm gonna do. So there you go. So it sounds like this barn was constructed prior to World War I. So the 1919s, right? Maybe the 1910s, maybe they don't have an exact date. And then over the years, it sounds like it was added to, and I'm sure wood replaced and fixed. But it's cool to think that people were hanging out here way back then, making orchards and farming out here. My goodness, is this bird's a jumping. This is my speed. This is it. This is what I want. This is my everything. There's really nothing of particular interest in here, but being in here and smelling hay, in here, and just the smell, that smell and the farm smell, it creates the ambience that makes the moment, kind of. But Looks like a lot of that lumber looks kind of fresh to me and newer. You can see the difference if you look at the roof compared to the side panels, which is normal. We study a lot of these things on this channel, so that's seems pretty par for the course at this point. Now there's this thing called the Gifford house, I think, and museum, which is currently closed. And honestly, with my itineraries the next couple days and the long drives I'm gonna be making, off-roading and stuff, I don't know if I'm gonna have time to do this. But that's okay, because I love leaving the little things to make reasons to come back, and I can tell you I will come back. This combines my favorite type of landscape, but from within, something unreal. A gentleman I met camping once, I told him I'd be coming here, and he said I must try the pie. And I didn't really do the research yet. I got a bunch of literature that I still have yet to read, trying to get work done, but I'm wondering, is this where it might be sold? Because I see picnic tables and stuff, making me wonder that, or maybe it's just a day use area. There's a sign over here. So at the very least, let's scout the outside on this episode, and then I'm gonna give you guys something likely you'll have to come and check out for yourself sometime to fill in the rest of the story. See, I don't wanna spoil everything. And I just thought of something else. I was talking to the ranger. They actually are gonna have something in the amphitheater that's running for once around sunset, and then they have at 10 o'clock here at 10 o'clock they're gonna have the telescopes, and they're gonna be doing night sky viewing. So if I'm up, I might actually come and check that out with you guys. This sign is kind of setting you up for putting you into that time frame as like, do you know how to manage a farm or ranch? What they talk about is far back as the 1880s, Mormon pioneers were out here building gravity-fed irrigation systems to deliver water to orchards. And they talk about how kitchens were bustling with the sound of canning and drying of fruits and vegetables, so they'd be stocking up for the wintertime. And they would store things in cellars. We've seen cellars of this sort even in our desert where I'm from, and they're much cooler than you would think. And they didn't have electricity in Fruita until 1948. Would have been better like that, I think. I want to start a new movement called Disassemble All Infrastructure in National Parks and put it back to 1880s technology. Would anybody else be a buyer? I totally would. I would totally think that would be awesome. And maybe there's a requirement that you have to dress in the period costume also. All right, that's asking too much. But there will be no electric hookups or water in that version of my reality, people. This is unreal, how the green is like glowing. Wow. It's like everything's so deliberately placed to be beautiful here. I imagine this is probably one of the Mormon homes. I don't know of what period. I'm gonna guess, well, the roof looks pretty old style, but I would guess from a later era maybe. All I care about is how beautiful and green that grass is. I had mentioned Lawnmower Simulator, the game, on a different episode, and how that relaxes me. And this would be a level, man. Like, make this level. I would play the heck out of it. Like, basically it's a video game where they can make levels like this with the backdrops, and you basically just take your lawnmower and you try to make the most efficient lines, and you don't want to go over the same spot too much, or you might even damage the lawn, and you have to like deduct that from your profits and stuff. So it's it sounds so messed up. But I'm telling you, man, this level with the horses like that, and maybe put a few clothes on the line, or like some sheets drying here naturally, and I'd be a buyer. I totally would. Sign me up on that. See, this place makes me giddy. I've been a really grumpy person and having bad experiences, and this makes up for all of them. And that's nice. Now I know that's an apple tree. Actually, I do see fruit up there, but without the fruit I wouldn't have known or even guessed that. And then you have horses again. The horses seem very friendly. One like put its head under the fence earlier. That one, I think. I was trying to brush flies off of it. I don't know if that was the one or not. I don't think it was. All this can be yours by getting a campground here. You don't need this. You don't need to be camping here to enjoy this. There's a parking lot date for people that visit during the day right across the street. But I mean, this is just the most photogenic thing ever. And I know it's not even like the best time of the day yet. So I can't imagine what it's going to be like later. Come over here and say hello. This is probably a good place if you want to get close up with the horses when they come to drink. This would be the place. Does anybody know if these horses actually serve any function here at the park, or are they more here just for the ambience? I'd be curious to know that. Or can you take horseback rides or something, is kind of what I mean. Or do you guys just let them hang out for the guests to enjoy? I would be totally cool with that answer if that's why. Yeah, I'm gonna actually have to maybe, in a weird way, really think about my 2024 list of campgrounds and the criteria a little bit more, because I mean, I would say for camper services, if we were to lump that into one category, that's where whatchamacallit, Kodachrome Basin State Park is killing it. And this place can't touch it. They don't have anything like that. But the setting here, this is top tier. I can say very definitively, nothing's popping in my head anyway that comes even this close to like camping in heaven, basically, is the best way I can describe it. Whatever your version of heaven is. I mean, imagine like this was your house and this is like your shed in the backyard, and it's like a Sunday afternoon, and maybe you're barbecuing back then or grilling something, I don't know. But maybe you're eating outside and you have a table back here in the shade facing exactly this direction. What are you gonna do? I believe horses eat apples, right? Or they can eat apples. At least they can in one of the video games I play, where I get my education. Red Dead Redemption 2. I think I've seen them eat apples, but my question is, if they can, do you have to trim those to a certain height so the horses can't get to them? Or do you just let them nibble at them and just let them get the ones that they can reach? Anybody know the answer to that one? All right, so that is another thing right next to the campground. And then there's one last thing down here I see. I'm curious what it is. And after that, I think our campground vicinity tour is complete. This is like a little day use area. It comes complete with deer hanging out in the shadows. And it is so well manicured. Another lawnmower whoever mows this stuff, I want to meet you. I'll feature you on our channel. Here's a deer with big antlers. Bigger than what we normally would see anyway. Oh yeah. And you guys must have quite the life here. It's like living in a Disney movie, isn't it? I feel like I'm in a Disney movie at the moment. With look at that, you got mama, baby, and I don't know, the home wrecker. I mean, you guys are making this a no-brainer, I hope, for our viewers to come admire you. And I mean, that right there is the pure definition and expression of the word chillin'. And you, senor, what are you doing? I'm annoying you, I think, so. I'm putting you on our channel so you can show off your horns, but I've seen bigger. Sorry. You seem kind of young. I don't know a lot about deer though. Anyway, this is as far as I'm gonna go, but I think I've shown you enough of the area directly adjacent to the campground, and if I haven't sold you, might as well just stop watching now and try the next one. Anyway, so another piece of business we have left here is there's another loop right behind me. So you do have people kind of right behind you too. So there's a guy in a van or a couple in a van over there, and people in tents. This is weird. There's been a lot of rotation day by day. Not a lot of people camping multi-day here, just like one day at a time. So getting a different sampling of a lot of things, but everybody over there has been really cool and quiet too. But it is maybe important to point out, like, yeah, our loop borders that loop, and the fence might create like a semblance of something, but realistically the sites are like right over there, but it hasn't mattered at all, but to be honest. So it's really very much, you know, the campers are really the things that affect, I think, whether it's going to be good or bad. Just pointing out that this whole area is interspersed with orchards. But these look like apple trees to me. And this morning I was following like a mama deer and 2 babies that were following her, and they went back into the orchard eventually. The sprinklers are going and I'm getting a little mist and it feels amazing. And I want to point out I'm walking in grass, which was amazing to me. It's a little swampy back here. Didn't realize that. But anyway, these look like apples to me, and they, you know, apples usually are a later summer, right, early fall thing, so they're not ready to pick. But you can see them growing in abundance. And perhaps the orchard view is the perfect starting point for our quick walk around tour of Loop C. And we'll see if my first impressions, did a quick drive through, are correct about some of the sites being rather exposed to the sun in places. You know, it's in terms of levelness and shade for a lot of spots, it's very much par for the course. I would say not much different at all from where I'm staying. I'm heading over to this half where it's pretty vacant right now. But beautiful views up here. And you're starting to see, you know, pretty much the same thing. You know, sites like this one over here, I like this one, 68. You're not far from more orchards. Well, you have an orchard in your backyard here, 68 and 69. And the shade here is amazing. Maybe one of the best sites I've seen, because it's on this corner here. Oh my gosh, and imagine you had a chair set up here. Here's your, make note of the site, folks. This is where I would stay. Look at that view. You'd have your chair right here and you'd be making dinner to that. My view's obstructed by the trees. This might be one of the prime ones. Probably any in this row, if you push out far like those people are, you're gonna get that view. But I like the way this one's on the corner and it juts out. And these trees are gigantic and shady. And I bet they'll shade you most of the day. And 69 might be a good backup, but here's where we start to have problems because part of your site is completely exposed. I just thought of a good way to summarize all of these loops. Loop A, think horses. Loop B, stuck in the middle with you. And Loop C, orchards in your backyard at times. And amazing views. I imagine if you can finagle a site right here when it's picking season, assuming this is one of the orchards, you can do U-pick. I don't know, I saw a sign that said U-pick somewhere else, but they may not do that here. But regardless, I don't know which kind of fruit these are, if they're apples. They grow a lot of things here like pears, and let's see if I see any fruit. I do not. And I have seen apple trees with fruit on them, so, oh, there's something. Is that apricot? There's like an orange, I'm gonna guess this is an apricot tree. You see that up there, those orange things? Not an orange tree that I've ever seen. I bet you that's an apricot tree. Or maybe peaches? I don't know, it's more orangey though, so apricot is what I'm thinking. So we'll kind of continue here down our tour, but you can see now too, like 69 is a little exposed here. I would say it's very exposed. So you got a mixed bag, and here in the center, all of these sites, 70 is not bad, but as you round the corner, and you'll see it in our drive-through video, you'll see that some of these have 0 almost zero shade. Maybe not as bad as I thought it was going to be though. But if you set your tent up or something, certainly at some point you're going to be in the sun. And I guess maybe a better way to put it is probably depends on the time of day too. Like my site's going to be in the shade all day. That's why stuck in the middle with you might be good if you want shade and a better guarantee of shade. But then you have sites like this one over here, 53. It's probably just the position of the sun actually. That one's probably going to get sun later. And then 54 is probably the one that I saw that was like, no, not enough shade. If you have choice and you had like maybe a void list, 54, it's a nice level site. If you're like in a van or something, it's probably fine. But if you're in a tent and you live outside like me, you're gonna bake. So I showed you a really good one, and I showed you one that I personally would avoid unless I had no other choice. Then I'd still camp here anyway because it's amazing anyway. And we're gonna round it out now with these other sites. Like 59 might be another one to avoid for lack of shade, but you can see my yellow tent there. That's us. You can see it from this perspective now. See what I'm saying? Like I would say if you want the guarantee of shade, it's like this middle bunch is your deep dark jungle of shade. And it's I've not been here every day during the whole day, but every time I have checked in, I have shade like that virtually the whole time. I think I'm just gonna leave it at that, folks. I mean, I gave you a good sense of the 3 loops and some generalities about them. Hopefully you saw some things on this video that you would like, and maybe you can find like that site way on that corner. I still have 2 more nights here, so there's plenty of tough time for things to go wrong. And I promise you, if something major happens, I will make an amendment to this video. But as it stands now, I'm ready to say my piece. This is one of my favorite campgrounds of 2024, and it's been nothing but spectacular and healing for me in a way, and just something that's desperately needed after all of these adventures. So anyway, hopefully this helps you. Also, if you're shopping around for a site and come back for more in the future, subscribe so you don't miss more campground drive-thrus and reviews, and we'll see you next time.